call the meeting to order. We have, I think, a quorum to start, so calling the meeting to order. Do we need a motion for that? I do meet once a month, I always don't remember.
Oh, for the, yeah.
Can I have a motion to call the meeting to order?
Need a motion.
Doing a motion?
No.
Why do I think like that? My brain's not thinking straight. I drove too far. Let's review the agenda. Any questions with the agenda or any amendments you want to change? If not, let's adopt the agenda.
If you're okay, if I can have my piece before I gotta get to an event in Chaska,
Okay.
can I do my piece?
Now?
Well, whenever you get to it.
When do you need to leave?
5:15.
Okay, we'll get there.
Good.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Approve the minutes from the last meeting, April 11 meeting. If there are no amendments or questions regarding the meeting minutes from April 11, can I have a motion to accept?
I move we accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion approved. Minutes approved. Public comment. Do you have no visitors? Any public comment?
I had asked Jake Foster, the city administrator from Watertown, to come, and he wasn't able to because they have council meeting tonight, but he sent some comments, if I can share those with the
Sure.
group.
Go ahead.
He said, just relating to some of their recent projects and upcoming projects for Watertown. Our biggest project this summer is our Mill and Overlay Street Reconstruction Project. It will impact the length of Arnica Drive, areas in the Landings, River Point developments, and on State Street behind the fire department. As part of this project, we will be paving 30th Street from Arnica to Ja 10, which we've been receiving a lot of great feedback on. We had one application for a preliminary plat for a housing development. However, that application has since been withdrawn temporarily and put on hold. The city continues to work on our wastewater treatment facility expansion project. That project is scheduled to be completed and online in the spring of 2024. And lastly, he says staff is also working on preparation for the construction of a second water tower. The city has identified a location for the water tower behind the speedway off of Ja 20, but is still in the process of acquiring the land. We hope to start the site prep for construction later this year, with the majority of the construction taking place in early 2024. Thanks, Jake Foster.
What's the population here? Do you know? Any?
Not off the top of my head.
On the sign coming in, it was 4 something, 47. I always moved it.
4 digit.
What?
4,000.
4,000, 7 something, yeah.
I think I probably changed by now, but yeah.
Is Watertown one of the towns on the, we want a bigger library list or no?
I don't think that Watertown has popped up in that conversation as of yet. So,
Just curious,
Yep.
out there, seems like it is growing.
I was going to say maybe the public input would have been that letter from from Europe.
from the Carver County Library books that I
Yeah.
included it in
I
the
thought that
director's
was
report.
cute.
But there were a couple of a few withdrawn books that made their way across the ocean. And so there was a big social media post about it, and they're going to make their way onward. It was to China, I believe.
Literally around the world.
Yeah, an interesting connection that bubbled up. So, and a lot of staff saw that, and yeah, it's been really interesting to follow.
Did they find it, or was it a letter sent to you, the Chaska Library? Or?
No, I think some folks, it bubbled up in some of our library network Facebook posts or Facebook groups that people belong to. So, yeah.
Oh, nice. Action item. So we'll go to you.
Cool. So MELSA update, we had a budget review last week and we passed audit, everything was great. Wanted to formally recognize that you have a different title now. Jody, and just a little bit of history that post went out and was closed and not filled, and then reopened, and there was a pretty robust amount of candidates. And so it's awful great fun when we have one of our own that gets elevated and promoted and justifiably so. And I didn't do all the history, but I know that Heidi was here and did a great job, and you'll do a great job for the next 25 years is the contract.
Right.
But seriously, I think there's a lot of headwinds that are facing library, not just in some of the policies that we see in the news and all that other stuff. But if we just look at Carver County, the fastest growing county in the state, Chaska's slated to get a new library. Chanhasen's in its 20th year. Carver's growing, Victoria's growing, Waconi's growing. I use those three because they're three of the top 25 highest growth cities in the state, and they all have sizable library presence. And then the role of the library is evolving. So you're in the hot seat while these things are happening, and Nelson's more active than they've ever been. I think it'll be the first time they get incremental funding, and at least at the time that I've been attached to library. So a lot of good things, and full support for Jody and her role as executive director. So cool. That's what I got.
Thank you.
And you have a new role.
Yeah, so relatively new. I sat on the NALSA board since last year. Gail said it might be time, the senior is the end of his tenure as a commissioner, for me to go in there is logical because I've been attached to library before I got elected to commissioner. And so much to my chagrin, I told the guys not to vote for me, but the MELSA group voted me as chair. And I simply said I think it makes sense to sometimes elevate some of the things that are happening at libraries. So it'd be kind of nice to have a press release for the people, particularly Bigum, who is she's a speaker at some point at the House and the Senate, but she's on the MELSA board. And then Jessup from Anoka, a lot of change, but to get those people that are attached to MELSA out in their communities. I didn't anticipate them doing a story locally, but it really is intended to raise the voice of library within our own community, raise the voice of what those 100 partner libraries within MELSA can do. Happy to take the gavel, and our topic or our focus this next year I chose to be expanded access. Jody, I think your peers were part of the conversation of what does that mean? And I anticipated it to be more hours. And a lot of the conversation revolved around how do we bring libraries to people, whether it's the elderly population, whether it's at-risk populations that might not feel comfortable at a traditional library otherwise. And so I take it seriously when I sit in roles like that to be a catalyst for what can happen, and I think the group's been pretty robust and a lot of good conversations, a lot of good dialogue, and I think we're going to see a lot of results by the end of the year.
So you're going to be moving the meeting to different cities?
So we have done that already. That was
Okay.
inspired by this group. There's been a couple other things that inspired. Our first meeting this year was at the Chanhassen Library. And it's amazing when you get people from 6 different counties that come in and they're like, my gosh, this is the Taj Mahal of library. And we kind of take it for granted because we're here. But they're used to the libraries that they're part of, and how did you do it? And they get to see the window and the robot, everything going on. You get to interact more so than anything else, get to interact with friendly staff that's knowledgeable. And they're like, man, this place feels like home. And then you drop it on them, and it's been there 20 years. And there's different things. I went to Scott County, not as impressive of a facility when you go downtown Shakopee, and they have a chance to see that. And the quasi-family resource center that was born out of there. And looking at that facility. And so, yeah, that was born out of this group and rotating and getting a chance to see all the different libraries and the different flavors that they bring. And there's been some other things that have kind of rotated in as well. So, yeah, thanks for saying that.
Thanks. So we'll jump back to following the agenda. That was he wanted it quickly done, so I'll give it to him straight away. Next part is the action items. Policy review, policy conduct in the library. Patrick, is that?
Yeah, we made some small changes to the significant one. Let me talk about the small changes first. In the process of doing this, we took this policy, we put it out in Microsoft Teams, we invited all the librarians and the managers to comment since they're the ones who have to enforce this. Based on their comments, a lot of the things in red in the bullet points were added. So hate speech, profane speech, etc., a few new items. The significant change is the prologue, which was looking at other library policies. We felt this was just too negative. It's all what you can't do, what you can't do, what you can't do. And we thought it'd be more inclusive to open with, here's what you should do. And that was a very intentional part. We also think it has something to do with our inclusion efforts, of saying that we want people at the library, and when you're here, here's what you should be doing, and here's what you should not be doing. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you would have.
Actually, you just answered one.
Okay?
You're on the, where it says patrons should not engage in the following.
Right.
And I questioned why you're using the word should, and I wondered about must, but you just explained that, what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. So that, but on the next point,
Yeah.
the disturbing sound levels,
Yes.
that got confusing to me.
Okay.
For instance, laptops, I think most people would think of that as personal computers or, computers.
Okay.
And then when we put it in conjunction with the library, I'm wondering if perhaps we would like to have something along the lines of combining the personal or library-owned computers into a single element. So
Okay.
it's just any computer. And, well, that was all I had on that.
Okay.
There were some, other things, but that's essentially it.
All right. I will make that change.
Well, I just think it's interesting how, when you look at the dates, you just see how the evolution of time. So we have to think about vaping, and we have to think about, things that are now pretty commonplace that we didn't 4 or 5 years ago. That's how fast time changes things. But roller shoes, you must have had that.
That means you.
I'll leave mine at home.
I don't have to
And
correct you
hate
again
speech,
about
yeah,
that.
that's kind of a new term, but yeah, we've got to keep up with this stuff because there's always something new around the corner what's happening.
I find it funny, it says shoes and shirts must be worn in the library.
Yeah,
What about
and there's no
pants?
pants. Yes.
Pants are out, Sean.
No, it's Zoom, so it's a Zoom world, so maybe pants are optional.
Yeah.
But that's always been true.
I have just a curiosity
Yeah, go.
question on that. What's the difference between conduct and behaviors in engage in sexual conduct or behavior?
Okay, without getting too weird on people.
Thanks, Frank.
Well, I saw this in someone else's policy. Conduct would be with another person, behavior would be with yourself. Without spelling it out that dramatically.
Would you like to change the language, Frank?
I still don't see a difference, but
Okay.
yeah, I get it.
There's a nuance, I guess.
No, we can certainly change it to.
No, I don't care.
No, if you have concerns, this is why we come to you, so we can get your input.
It was
and your
just
thought.
something that I noticed, and I wondered why the two words, which to me mean the same thing.
Right, that was the thinking of the policy that I looked at, but I'm happy to change that.
The
'Cause if it
second to the
confuses-
last one, how would a patron get a hold of personal data from somebody else?
Looking over their shoulder, you
Oh, so just-
witness someone,
In my space,
yeah, if you witness someone doing that, I think that would be the example.
okay. Kind of like respecting boundaries.
Yeah,
Okay.
On the one with the animals,
yes,
except specifically trained, and the and was changed to an or.
yes,
The or could imply that if a person simply claims their animal is an assist
yes.
individual, essentially they could bring any animal in
Yes.
they want, any pet they care to.
Our reading of what the statute from the state talks about more or less that you can't challenge people. They say it's a trained animal.
Okay.
You can't. It was also emotional support animals are not, in a sense, trained, they don't wear a vest. So this was to allow, again, to be inclusive of perhaps veterans with PTSD or emotional support animal, people with mental health issues need an emotional support animal, to allow them to come in. Having said that, the overall county board is looking at a policy about emotional support animals. So we may have come back to you and say, remember that word we changed in May? That needs to go back to being an and. But this was specifically to allow for emotional support animals.
Okay.
I guess the only question I have is that if, or should the policy be more explicit in the sense that if they bring an animal that's really not, but they claim is, and you can see that the animal is gone crazy running around.
This is a lot more specific than lots of our policies.
Right.
And so, Charles, I think it was a lot of how specific do we make it? And so I think the thinking here was, let's keep it one sentence, at most two, about a certain behavior, and if the animal is not that, then here's what we're going to do. That this whole idea within this is you need to be considerate of others. So if you bring an animal in, you say, well, it's an emotional support animal, and then it's biting people, then it's like, you have to leave.
And what happens with library liability under that situation?
Yeah, I don't know. If they bring an animal in, we ask them if it's trained, they say yes, and then as long as it behaves, we allow it in. If the dog or goat, emotional support goat,
Whatever emotional support.
or bunny or chicken or whatever they have, your behavior is now disruptive. And somewhere early on, that's about being disruptive behavior. So I think that's why we did not get that specific.
It's already kind of covered in the earlier point.
Yeah, we thought we did.
Okay.
So is a cow permissible or not?
It would be.
A person brought in a cow that wasn't
It's
moving.
an animal.
There was a story about somebody bringing something really weird on a plane. What was that? A few years ago.
Well, our senior prank was to grease two pigs and number them 1 and 3. So they went looking for number 2 and it wasn't there.
Any other questions on the kind of new preamble part or any specific parts? I noted I made notes here of what you want changed, and I will get those changed.
Were there any changes, or was it okay?
No, Frank was the main one that needs to be changed is item 1. That's just a little messy.
Yeah, it's just the way, the sequence in which the words appear.
Yeah. And then the other one about sexual behavior, I'm going to just change it to engage in sexual conduct.
Okay.
So I'll change those two. So I think you can approve the policy with, I don't think we need to go all the way back and approve it again with changes noted.
So all in favor of, can I get
Make a motion to approve the
Motion to
policy
approve.
with
the two
Suggested
adjustments?
I'll second that.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Policy approved with noted changes. Next one is another policy.
So I will take this one, and not a policy per se. I'll give you some background here and a little additional information. It really should read gratis copies for book discussion groups and our summer reading program book prizes. So as you know, for summer reading, we give away book incentives to our youth as they participate. And then in some of our partnerships, for instance, we have a teen book club program that's happening this summer where we are giving books away for their participation in that book group. Per county board policy, the donation policy is such that any incentives we give away is not supposed to go above a $5 threshold. So I'm coming to you for guidance and perhaps a recommendation back to our county administration. what we're running into with the way the world is headed with rising costs is that it's becoming more and more challenging to hit that $5 threshold. So say for instance, as an example, I was looking at one spreadsheet today of summer reading prize books, and even if you average out that cost, by quantity, you might be looking at an $8 per book average. So, which again goes above that $5 threshold. What we would look to all of you is to say, we would approve going above that $5 threshold. And then later in the year, we'd certainly want to look at the library board policy again for our donation policy that's specific to be able to have more flexibility with that piece. I know it's something at Public Services Leadership Team at the county level we're talking about too, just with rising costs and inflation and whatnot. How do we approach that as we move forward? But I was given guidance to be able to come to all of you today to see whether that's something we can move forward with. Certainly noting we want to keep it still within a reasonable amount, but we want to be able to provide content for our readers in that program, especially, during the summer with our teens. That's quality, obviously. And whether we go through our book vendor or Amazon, it's not always achievable to hit that $5 threshold right now. And I can answer questions or try to.
With this gratis, let me understand that. Does that mean that if you're participating in a book club, the book is provided for you?
Right, and I should say that even with our summer reading prize books, they're all supported by other organizations, say our Friends of the Library, our foundation, or other donations that come in to support that. But yes, not all of our book clubs operate in that method or mode, but with some of our youth book clubs, whether it's been virtual or we're doing a Parks and Rec partnership in Chaska to help promote to our teens in that community. So yes, we're essentially giving them that book to participate with.
One of the things that Hennepin Library used to do, and I don't know if they're still doing it, they have what they call book club bags. And they would be a set of books that would go to the book club that could be passed out. They were on a loan basis, but nevertheless, the books were made available.
And that's primarily what we do operate under with. Yep. But in this particular instance, for one of the pieces too was that we opened it up to a larger registration than the amount of books in a kit per se. And depending upon which book the program they were ordering to. So there's, probably a couple different facets for why we went that direction. But we've been talking about, certainly I think what you're speaking to, book club kits are definitely the way to go in the majority of the time, definitely. So, but I think it's a nice incentive, especially for that teen group, that they can walk away with something tangible too. Yeah. Yep.
So do we have the authority to say that? Because it feels like we might, I'm surprised to say we approve going to $10 or whatever.
Yeah, that's
okay.
I was, I'm bringing that to you with authority.
When you bring up the $10, but most of the contribution of those books are given from supporters of the library, or is it coming out of your budget?
Nope, it's coming from supporters of the library, Friends of the Library organizations, Library Foundation.
Well, but for Chaska Friends, we give the money to the library.
Right.
And for tax purposes, that's important that we're giving the money to the library. So then it's your money to decide how it's spent. So really, that applies to the library, whether the money originally came from the Friends.
Oh, my question, my direction of the question was, if it was within your budget, how's the impact to the reduced number of books that you can give out, rather than because of the, you have a pool of dollars, and then you have increased volume, increased price of the items. If it was under $5, it would be X, divided by 5, you get X number of items. Now you get X divided by 10, it's less number of items.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
true. Mhm.
So is that going to be a concern? Do you think you come short, or do you on a normal year basis already get a surplus already and it's not going to be an issue?
Well, I would say right now, we do have surplus, but that was partially coming out of the pandemic
Right.
and that effect of that. I think, I mean, generally speaking, there is some carryover from year to year. We have kind of a foundation at, you know, at each of our branches, and then we build upon that. Some of it comes back to what I was speaking to in terms of quality content and the popular items that, you know, families are really looking for as well, so that we really help to motivate them to participate, and they come in and they're excited to say, wow, look at, you know, what I get to choose from too. That can be a really exciting piece, so.
I always remember my kids when they read their book in the summer, they always get a ticket to go to the science museum, or they get a ticket to go to the zoo. Is that something that y'all can consider too, rather than just a book?
So there are incentive tickets that MELSA provides to us that we give away as part still as
Okay.
well, and it is anything from like state fair tickets to Minnesota Twins tickets, sometimes Crayola passes. I'm trying to remember what else, SeaWorld. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, lots of great exciting things for
We
kids.
ended up having to go ourselves and bring them there, then we got to buy our own tickets, but you know, it was kind of fun that they get their own ticket and they were like
Yeah.
really excited about it.
Well, in the interest of quality material for young people, this is a wonderful thing.
So
So
I guess we have
something-
to, a motion, do we, motion to accept the recommended change to
Well-
10?
How are we changing it, just upping the amount?
That's up, I mean, yes, essentially we're asking for a greater amount. I guess if you want to put a cap on it, that we need to, you know, you can say up to $10, as opposed to the 5. You could go that route. That's kind of up to your,
And those would be for incentive books then?
And book discussion.
and book discussion.
Especially with adults, I would rather see more emphasis on the, you know, the book bag, the, what is it, book club bags with the books available. So that it isn't a straight giveaway. Certainly with young people, I think that's a good idea. So I guess, you know, what constitutes old people and young people?
Well, that's a good question, Frank, and to my knowledge, we haven't done any giveaways for adult book clubs in this model, so.
So this is mainly for
Youth.
High schoolers and anybody in school, like high schoolers and younger,
It's youth.
Youth,
youth.
youth in
Youth.
general.
Whether they're in school or not. In fact, the ones who aren't in school, it'd be even better.
So the two things here is, well, my understanding is that should there be a cap, and the new cap is at $10. I mean, a suggested cap would be $10. And for me, it makes sense given the fact that, you know, everything is getting more expensive in the last couple of years. How long has the $5 been around? Just out
With
of
the-
curiosity.
With the county, it's been at least since 2010,
Okay.
and then it was revised and stayed as such in 2013.
Yeah, I think $10. $10 makes sense.
So I'll make a motion to increase the amount to up to $10.
Yeah. Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's no, oh yeah, there's one, the bylaw. Was that the one
Did you
that?
get the up, oh, do you have a 6.1 request for reconsideration process, Charles?
Unfinished, a new business library board bylaw review, is that right? Is that what you're talking about? That's one I got in the mail. I think I thought that was the same agenda that I got in the mail. Oh, that one there. Request for reconsideration, oh yeah, I saw that one. Nice.
And this we had started discussion about last time, the board
Right.
process of how to respond to a request for reconsideration. And I believe Patrick was just, I think we all let him speak to it.
Well, we made one change, we
Yep.
just said it's 5 minutes, but other than that, you guys said it was fine. so-
Yeah. We kept it at 5 minutes, but we said that if, depends on reasonableness, it's not a hard and fast rule. We'll
You know,
probably
I
extend it
think
out.
we need to be careful of the wording in that, because the way it is worded right now, the person bringing the challenge may speak up to 5 minutes. That sounds pretty draconian. So I'd rather see something to the effect that says, bring the challenge may, what did I scribble in here? I can't even read it. Something like present their concerns for up to some amount, a little more than 5 minutes, with an addition to the sentence that somehow includes that the library board chairperson may choose to extend the time as needed.
I would advise against that, and here's why. If you get someone extremely belligerent, you're gonna wanna cut them off at 5 minutes. Then maybe the next person who comes is exceedingly nice and gracious, and you say, well, you can talk more than 5 minutes. And so,
Maybe the first person would get the idea.
I think you might run a risk of them saying, well, you gave the person who the book that you gave genderqueer, you cut them off, but the person who wanted to remove a book that, like Cast, you gave more time to. Just people who are doing book banning and these kinds of challenges are very in tune.
Yes, I know.
And I'm concerned that may then, that's why I thought a hard test, it's 5, you can talk up to 5 minutes and then that's it. But if you put any squishiness in there, then I think they're gonna just keep challenging you. Well, you let me talk for 8 minutes, why can't I talk for 10? Then you end up arguing about how much time they can talk.
Goes down a rabbit hole.
That's my concern.
Well, I'm going to then argue that we really should go more than 5 minutes.
Okay?
5 minutes, you can hardly get the steam up.
We don't want steam up.
Well, it depends if it's in the middle of winter, it might not be so bad.
Do you want to change it back to 10 minutes?
No.
How about using something else other than a number, like
That-
to the discretion
For a
of the
limited
chairman?
amount of time.
But your limited is 10 and my limited is.
Or for a
I don't
limited
know.
amount of
Right.
time,
Some
not
is
to
20 minutes,
exceed.
right.
To be determined by the chair.
By the
They
board.
come as a group.
I think if you leave it at 5 minutes, it gives a tool to whoever the chair is that's conducting it. I know you had the gavel, didn't you, at Carver? Did you ever stop anybody at 5 minutes? Probably not, but if you had the opportunity to, it
I
gives you.
think I've stopped people, but not at 5 minutes.
Yeah,
But I think when you put the word 5 minutes, for me, when you put a time limit there, it hopefully is that the person who comes to make the petition would try to organize their thought to get it done in 5 minutes. Now, obviously, when you're presenting,
You're
emotions
setting
can go up and
boundaries.
down and you will extend, but you will not normally exceed beyond an unreasonable 5 minutes. That's my impression. If you tell someone that, they will work around that focus, right? Hopefully. No?
Well, my experience is some people will, and a lot of people won't. There are a lot of people out there.
And I mean, if people who don't, they already plan to filibuster about the whole thing, then you just want to please stop. Because it's not going to get anywhere.
Some people will get up and discuss an item that they should be discussed in 5 minutes, and they don't have the capability to time themselves, and will end up talking a half hour. I think they only spend 5 minutes.
You'll find also that most people, myself included, will repeat over and over.
What do you think, Jay?
Jan, Ellen, Phil Pines?
Well, as I said before, discretion of the chairman. That's the easiest way.
I like the time limit thing for me personally, so that whoever is presenting realizes that there is a finite amount of time that they have to do to present it, and that they don't take up the entire session of the board meeting to just go at it. Especially for someone who is, for some parties who are in, like you say, could be very planned to make it a big deal.
If you don't put a time limit, or a numeric time on it, you're going to put a tremendous stress on the chairperson.
What do you think, Matt?
I think if you put it at 5, you're the hero because you're like, we're gonna allow more time, you're gonna be gracious, as you said. And if you don't comply with it, then it's to anybody's discretion. Well, reasonable time for me is 2 hours, because I'm gonna lay it all out.
Right.
And so if you start with the mentality of 5 and you work from that, I think it gives more control to the board to have quorum. And I think you accomplish what everybody else said. I don't think there's gonna be a reasonable board chair, or else they're probably not in that role if they are. If they don't let it spill over to 7 minutes or 10 minutes, or recognize, hey, we're gonna allow this one to breathe. I just have seen it in our boardroom where we've had a contentious item or two, the general population's allowed to be there. The mention is made, hey, can we wrap it up? You're past your 5. And everybody wins on that one. They feel good, we feel good, they're heard, we're heard. But if you don't put that 5 in there, like, you look like the bad guy immediately for not allowing what else is in somebody's head.
If you make it, let's say 5 minutes, and you don't have a timekeeper, you do have, as the chair, you do have some control. You know, you can say, you can make that decision when 5 minutes is, and if it runs to 6, well, that's okay, they're finishing up.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it at 5 and let the chair, and I think the strategy will be the chair, hopefully whoever is the chair, and I don't have to be the chair at the time it happens.
And to help the
Well, my
chair, you
hope
can
is
give them a
that-
stopwatch.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think when you do a stopwatch, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, my hope is that it never comes to the board.
Right.
But if it does, and we run into issues with the 5 minutes,
We should
then
be
we can
reasonable
revisit
about it. We
Yeah.
just be reasonable about it, but provide that frame, that limitation, so that you can at least wrap, like what Messi, give them a minute or two, because you can see that they're concluding their point, and then just say, hey, can you just wrap it up? You passed the 5 minutes, it's already 7. They'll feel good about it, that you didn't cut them off exactly at 5, and hopefully can get to a reasonable decision from that. So that's all we can hope. That work. So we'll keep it at 5.
With what I heard, but with an understanding that, what I heard from Alan and Jim, with an understanding that it's still up to you, or whoever's the board chair, the person's like in mid-sentence, you're not going to cut them off.
Right, right.
That you'll be reasonable.
Right.
Okay. I just
That's
wanted
the
to-
implied reasonableness there. I hope, maybe 5 years from now, whoever looks at this policy will understand that, and not like, hey, 5 minutes, you, quiet.
We'll budget for a big hook.
Okay, thank you. So I don't need to change anything on this then. We had a good discussion of it, but we can, this will.
The only question I may have, the only one part I have wasn't the 5 minutes
Yeah.
actually. It's the same sentence. The person bringing the challenge may speak for up to 5 minutes. The person, or can we say a representative?
No, you don't, because they could bring in someone who's not a Carver County.
Just want to be clear
resident.
about that, that's all. Okay, no, I'm fine with that. I prefer that. That everybody comes in with a high-powered lawyer, and we're like, crap.
The one thing I wondered when I was just thinking about,
Yeah.
if this ever played out, after the person speaks, then are they excused and then the board has a discussion, or do they wait outside, or what is sort of
It's an
the
open
mechanics?
meeting,
Yeah.
they can't be excused.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we would have to decide it with them
In public,
sitting there.
yeah.
Okay, well, that would be interesting,
Yes,
based on this discussion.
and based on the fact that we seldom have visitors. Interesting.
Would be a secret ballot.
I'm like you, man. I hope it never gets to us. So with that, all in favor, can I have a motion to accept this latest requisition for reconsideration process?
So moved.
Second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion accepted. Reconsideration process accepted. As written. So was there another bylaw review?
That will be, this is more of an FYI that it's a policy that's due up for review. So we'll plan for discussion about that next month.
Okay.
So just wanted to bring a heads up to all of you about that, because we'll definitely be looking for your thoughts and edits as we look to reviewing those. So, and I know our Assistant County Administrator, Nick Kaktavi, is going to be reviewing them as well. So, so we'll plan for that for our next meeting in June to discuss.
Thank you. Budget update from our new director.
Thank you. So I'll share a few things that we're working on in terms of the budget right now. Wanted to speak to a couple of purchases that we're looking at. A couple things, we need to look at purchasing 2 new book drops. One out for our mayor book drop. The shell was vandalized in the last year, if you recall, and so we need to look at replacing that shell to make sure that it maintains its functionality. And then an additional book drop in Chaska, which was hit again recently. And the locks are broken on it, and it's been hit several times along the way. And so it's just a real struggle to maintain its functionality for staff and to maintain our good customer service. It's heavily, both of those, both Mayor and Chaska book drops are heavily utilized. So
Is that the book drop in the parking lot that you drive around to drop off?
Yes.
When you say it was hit, was that a physical damage or was that it was hit by thieves?
Physical, like somebody backed into it. We're not quite sure.
Are there book drops made that can withstand that kind of abuse? And the reason I ask this, I was once involved in a contract developing a time clock for use in the mail distribution center in Chicago. And one of the requirements was that it had to withstand being hit by lift trucks and with sledgehammers. And it had to keep working. So
That's what we need to find. Yes, because I know a couple of years ago, our Carver book drop got hit by a snowplow. That did not bode well either.
Oh, wow. Have we explored a different location? Because I know this isn't the first time that that's been damaged.
No, we haven't, because that drive-up piece is so, I mean, people just really appreciate that. And then, of course, why am I forgetting what it's called? But the cement platform is all, built right into that.
Yep.
But it's a good question.
I think that new Chaska library can be probably planned for so that there's a buffer and so you don't hit the darn thing. Yeah.
Like those heavy metal pole.
No.
The one in Chaska is particularly bad because you're in a parking lot and cars back up as well as,
Yep.
I mean, you're not looking at something somebody just drives next to.
Yep.
So,
Need to have flashing lights.
well, we are looking at a different color for it, whether that will help or not, but, so that's one of the projects we're looking at right now. We will be working on, as I mentioned, I think last month, we had requested some rollover funds from our 2023 levy budget for some of our technology projects, which would include some of our PC replacement and some of our other branches. So I know tomorrow I'm meeting with Bob, our systems administrator, to really do a deep dive into that budget piece to see where that sits and how we can efficiently get those PCs ordered and moving forward. We had some MELSA funds that we rolled over that we purchased and ordered some new catalog computers for all of our branches. We're anxiously awaiting county IT to image those for us so we can get those rolling out to all of the branches. One area that I guess that we're watching, and it's nothing, it's kind of out of our control a bit, and Patrick, I would welcome you to speak to it too. In terms of our collection, I think our purchasers are doing really well purchasing, but our book vendor is really delayed on getting things shipped to us. And so that's been kind of a struggle in terms of our processing piece in library admin, because we're waiting for these big shipments to arrive and they're very backed up. So we do have meetings with our book vendors coming up, and hopefully we can kind of have some conversations about that, how we can better move forward with that. And then the only other piece, which kind of blends a little bit into my director's report as well, that the county finance and county administration is just launching into our 2024 budget process, budget planning. So just recently, we're looking at FTE requests and capital requests for 2024. And then in the next few weeks, as we head into June, we'll start going line by line through the entire budget process and doing some projections and looking at those pieces. So a lot of work ahead in the next couple months.
How is that affecting, given the inflation situation last year and this year going into FY24? What's the county's guidance on budgeting?
Well, one of the things, we're definitely looking at is our collection purchasing power and how to best move forward. I mean, just even related to our early discussion about, incentive prize books, but obviously looking at our collection costs in general and the inflation impact, the processing fees that are all going up from vendors, and how we best support that. So that's, I think, just very much going to be at the forefront of when we're having those conversations at the county level.
Did we increase like photocopies charges? Did we ever increase that, or is that still the same?
Still the same. Mm-hmm.
Just curious. Because my son came by and photocopied at Chaska Library because he needed to get his license renewal, and
Sure.
said, I don't have this stuff. But that. So okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you did both the budget and your director's report.
Well, I can add a couple things to the director's report as like I said, I kind of launched into that a bit with the budget. We've started our State of the Library presentations. Patrick and I were out in Victoria, and Paul and I were out in Norwood Young America, and we'll continue out to our other communities with our main branches here in the next few weeks. And just great feedback from those council members, definitely about the services and the programs that we're offering. So that is just wonderful to be able to experience that feedback. We had an all-staff meeting on Friday morning, a full morning of, we had some Microsoft Teams training. We had an introduction from our youth services to the summer reading program, a bit of information about that, and some readers advisory. And then we did breakout sessions with our librarians and our library assistants. Our operations supervisors spoke to the work that is being done in regards to our 5-star customer service goals this year. So great morning overall. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any other questions related to the director's report.
The bean stack, what is it? Is it literally a bean stack?
That's the name of the software program.
Okay.
That we use to track.
I said bean stack configured. Is it something like physical that kids can see?
It's our software, as
Okay.
Patrick said. Yep, or an app. There's an app as well.
But
So-
imagine if it was something literal. Kids would be like, what? It's a bean stack.
Gwen, did you have a question?
Yes, I was curious about the branch manager for Chaska now. Is that in the
Oh.
works?
Good question.
Yes, will be top priority to get that requisition in the system and the posting up and going as quickly as
So
possible.
You're still wearing 2 hats?
I'm
or
still wearing
what?
2 hats.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So hopefully, I just had a conversation with Nick yesterday that will make that a priority to get that rolling as quickly as we can. So, an important key piece to fill.
So is the summer reading program started yet, or is it just starting? Because like school doesn't finish till June.
It starts June 1st
Okay.
officially, although you can register ahead on Beanstack. So, and I know like Norwood Young America schools are out or shortly out because of the construction out there.
Yeah, they're already out this week.
They're already out this week, so,
Wow.
yeah, so we'll have some anxious kiddos ready to jump into summer reading.
So do we have a lot of submissions, pre-submissions for the Dalkey grants yet? Let's see.
Nope, we haven't ventured into that next round yet. Just in the midst of moving forward in this year's timeline, and then we'll need to take next steps shortly though to get into the third year process.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Any other questions? Thanks, Jody.
Mm-hmm.
So, did anything from Nick? He's not here, but
No, no.
so now we're going to trustee each of the library reports.
Yeah, so if you want to go to my pages, I always like to explain what the photos are. And as always, I just spend a little bit of time with three of them. The first one is of the Chanhassen book sale, which was a doozy. Set an all-time record.
My memory.
By a lot. Like-
Yeah.
Like, I think normally a record was like 2,900, we were at 3,200.
We went over 3 once,
Okay.
but like 3,100.
Yeah. So we just had a fantastic book sale, with one coming up in Victoria in May, much smaller, but they're excited about it. On the second page is a arts class we had at Victoria. We do lots of art classes at Chanhassen, I know I'm always featuring those. So I do like to make sure that every time I come, that I mention something that's going on at Victoria. They don't do as much, but they do really powerful stuff. So I wanted you to see that. And then the last thing I want to point out is on page 4, which is the Dalkey grant, which Charles mentioned. They approved last year, they wanted to do STEM programming. And we invited a group called the Works Museum out of Bloomington. And they did workshops all around the system. Here's the one at Chan. They finished up today at Norwood Young America. I don't have the final stats for you, and I'll have those when we do the Dalkey grant reports. So those are the 3 things I wanted to point out.
Okay. So when they go for the art class or the water painting class,
Yeah.
all the things are provided, or do they
Yes.
need to bring anything?
No, that's what we're paying Corso Arts for. It is rare, on occasion, we do ask people to bring something, but that's very rare.
Looks like really good attendance.
Yeah, it was nice. We have to cap attendance because, for exactly that reason, so they know how many supplies to bring. And in Chaska, we can only fit like 12 people in the city hall area.
Is it first come, first serve, or do they need to register?
They do need to register, and they usually fill up pretty quick, and then a couple people drop, and we call the people on the waiting list. And we had a couple people who no-showed, so I think of the 12 people who registered, we had 10 there that night. And you don't want like 20, 30 people at these arts classes, then the instructor can't do
More
what I
attention,
want.
yeah. That's good, thank you. Jody?
Sure.
Chaska.
Chaska,
Yes.
absolutely. So I'll flip to the second 2 pages of Chaska's report. One additional hiring piece that happened recently, we have filled our catalog librarian position in Chaska with an internal promotion actually from a Chanhassen staff member, Lisa Gearman, who was an associate librarian for Chanhassen. And so she stepped into the role of catalog librarian and is delving right into training and getting settled. She's going to maintain some information desk hours at the Chanhassen branch as well, and then she'll have some selection duties for the collection as well. She comes to us with a background as a school media specialist. So very excited to have her take on that role. So that was exciting news. We are well underway with lots of construction downtown Chaska. So, you know, staff are just doing their best to communicate in a positive way with patrons, you know, how to find parking and how to navigate to us. And we'll see, it's, you know, we'll see. I think everyone's a little nervous about the traffic patterns, especially as we head into summer reading, but, you know,
Is that first turn blocked or second turn is not blocked? Like the first turn that goes before that little loop to pay your bills and do the library drop off, that's closed,
open to get into the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's open.
Oh, okay.
You can get there from Pine Street.
Okay,
Yep.
so not from 41. 41 side is blocked.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So it's, yep, there's a lot going on down there, to say the least. But we're planning some outreach events and programs out in the community in Chaska to try to kind of balance out folks that can get to us and then reach out into the community. So, but one of the exciting things that did happen at the library recently was our squad car story time with Officer Julie. We do this a few times a year now, and it's just such a great event, such a great partnership with the City of Chaska Police, and families just really are so excited about that. So, and we actually ended up with a nice weather day for it too. So those are just a few highlights from Chaska.
Can I just ask you about the 100-year
Oh,
anniversary?
yes.
Is that like literally?
Literally, yes. So
Not the same building.
not the same building, no.
So like how long has Chanhassen had a library? We had it in the city hall for a while.
I was gonna say, considering how long it's been to wait for a new Chaska library, it feels like 100 years now, but there's some really interesting history about it. And actually, if you, I know Jim could speak to the original German Reading Society in the city of Carver,
The first library.
the first library, so.
Is that building still around?
Actually, I think the building is still around.
I mean, it's not a library, but someone could be using it, but it's, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Carver also was the first school district in the state.
Wow.
Yeah, well, keep us posted on that. I think, you know, the board should have a presence there, maybe.
Absolutely.
Makes sense to do
So
something.
we're gonna pull together a committee here shortly. We have a Friends meeting this weekend and hope to gather some staff, some former staff, and then plan for something in the fall, hopefully when the construction has settled down a little bit.
When are they done though? Is there a estimated date of when they finish?
November, earlier in October if all goes well, but who knows? So, yep.
But they'll probably do it again next year, right?
Yeah, is that a single year?
I think you're gonna do it further out by Costco.
It's
gonna open.
supposed
They're
to
gonna
be.
do all that part there too.
Okay.
Thank you. I forgot your
No,
name.
you're just fine. So for those who didn't hear me when I introduced myself initially, my name's Jake Manning. I'm the operations supervisor for the western branches here. Paul's on back home, back east, so I'm kind of stepping in his stead here. So just kind of hitting a couple of the highlights here. Kind of have a bittersweet one to start. Kathleen McDonald was a library assistant at the primarily Norwood Young America branch for 26 years. She just retired at the end of April, so sad to see her go, but also very happy for her. She's got a lot of good vacation plans and crafting things ready to go. Speaking of Friends book sales, the Friends of the Watertown Library had their book sale in the middle of April. They made about $500, which they were pretty happy with, considering one of the days was pretty horrible weather. So they still had pretty good attendance. Also at Watertown, the city just recently put in a handicap door opener here. There was no handicap door opener at the Watertown branch prior to that. So that's a pretty welcome feature, and we've had a lot of good comments on it already. And then, I guess kind of a last little highlight. Recently at the Waconia branch, we've reestablished a monthly outreach delivery to senior assisted living facility, to New Perspectives in Waconia. So that's exciting to get going again. I guess according to Paul, they did it prior to the pandemic, and as the restrictions have kind of eased up a little bit, we've been able to get back in there and deliver books there. And that's kind of what I got.
So do you just, how do you do that? Like you just deliver books, or do you deliver books at the request?
They request, is my understanding. I'm not super familiar with that process. But yeah, Serena is one of our librarians at Waconia, and she'll go in to with whatever each patron's requested and bring it in there to them. So I think it's been a pretty positive experience for people.
So this is like senior care home, or what kind of locations?
Yeah, it's primarily assisted living and yeah.
It's so nice.
Yeah, I think people really like it. And, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anything else? Alan, updates.
Paul put a couple of sentences into his presentation, or his paper here. The Norwood Young America Library Fund's next book sale is Saturday, June 3rd, in conjunction with the Spring Fest Artisan Fair. The Norwood Young America Library also hosts the quilt show in the library that same day. And there's other things going on, such as vendors, car show, and some other interesting things. Even a band is going to be there. So that's pretty much it.
I do have a question for you, Jake.
Yeah.
What is this?
The Unite Us?
That project?
I guess I am not familiar with that. The project,
It's an interesting name.
yeah, Lynn Kij. I'm not sure.
It's a nonprofit group, and Paul's been attending the meetings more closely, but that's trying to pull together resources from across the county. So essentially, and a part of it is actual software programs. So if someone needed to locate housing resources,
Okay.
health resources, they would have a single point entry to be able to connect with resources or have someone reach back out to them. So they're becoming, and I think they're based in Chanhassen, if I recall correctly.
That's correct.
Yes.
I was just curious, like it's not English, so is it a different root word from a different language or
Project Linkage.
linkage? Oh, linkage.
Linkage. Yep.
Started
Okay.
with a couple, husband and wife.
Yes,
Remember
thank
that?
you.
And-
Mhm.
And it grew and they partnered, then with the second group, and it's going to get much bigger than that, and what we need in the county is just one whole place and site. So
Okay.
this is all wonderful, what a wonderful Carver County we have.
So they're actively attending a lot of our Public Health Advisory Council meetings to try to actively connect with the county departments
Okay.
Yeah,
as
well,
just one piece of the work that they're doing. Yep.
Thank you. I just, I may have heard the word, but when I read it, I keep thinking it's not English, it's link and then cage. I wasn't pronouncing it right in my mind. Okay, thank you. There are no other questions or anything else for this evening's meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, when's our next meeting and where is going to be our next meeting?
I don't have the
We'll figure it out.
schedule in front of
We'll
me.
figure it out. When we get the update from
Give me just
Susan.
a moment, I can tell you.
Okay.
You go ahead and adjourn, and I can tell you after the fact.
So can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Do you want to report on the foundation?
Oh, I thought you.
Oh,
I didn't include that.
Okay, go ahead.
The foundation, the big thing coming up in October is a fundraising. which will be held at the Parley Lake Winery, which includes a band, a big feast, and very hopeful that it's going to raise some money. So,
And is
Where's
it-
that
Where
place
is it,
located?
what, where is it located
I'm
again?
sorry?
Where is it located?
It's located in a place, in a winery called the Parley Lake Winery.
Parley
It's-
Layer or Parley?
Parley, P-A-R-L-E-Y.
Right outside of Waconia.
It's quite, yeah,
Okay.
it's right outside of Waconia on the Highway 5.
Is this a first for the foundation?
Yeah, this is a Dave Delbert thing. And it really sounds good. It really sounded good.
This is in October?
It's in October, the date's already locked in, and the time, and the band, and the food, everything's a done deal. The tickets are gonna be available and distributed, so watch for it.
Okay, sounds good.
Do you have the date?
It's, I think it's October 17th, but it might be the 10th. There was sort of a discussion there back and forth, so.
We
This-
meet on the 10th.
I think, Alan, I
In
think,
October.
I think it's the 14th, if I
Okay.
remember. October
Split
14th.
the
It's a Saturday.
Compromise.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, and it starts at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and traveled ground.
You've heard about it.
Traveled ground, the band from Waconia, Clark McDemus, will be there, and there'll be a food truck, yeah,
Oh,
so.
But okay, so there'll be a winery, but they won't be selling food.
It's a
There'll be a
Saturday.
food truck that will do the food, but they will do the wine.
An
Will
apple
there be rides
tasting.
provided?
What is that?
Will there be rides provided?
October.
right.
October will be nice.
The next meeting is at Norwood Young America.
Huh?
The next meeting's at Norwood Young America.
Okay, thank you. So can we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
The motion we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Say aye. No one wants to
Aye.
stay anymore, so.